We've talked about AI hallucinations in the past. This is when AI presents false or fabricated information as fact. We've heard AI companies talking about how they're working to reduce the number of these hallucinations. Unfortunately, OpenAI researchers have just released a study that shows that AI hallucinations are, in fact, mathematically inevitable and that the problem cannot be fixed, unfortunately, Jeff, by better engineering.
Yeah, I think, frankly, it's great that that came from OpenAI, which looked at its own ChatGPT, but also DeepSeek and other models to reach that conclusion. Neil Shah, VP for Research and Partner at Counterpoint Technology, explained that, quote, unlike human intelligence, AI lacks the humility to acknowledge uncertainty. When unsure, it doesn't defer to deeper research or human oversight. Instead, it often presents estimates as facts, end quote. And I have to say that kind of sounds like an awful lot of humans on the internet, Amber, but maybe that's beside the point.
I think that is a good description for sure. Now, one fascinating quote in this study is that, and I'm quoting here, hallucinations present due to the way most evaluations are graded. Language models are optimized to be good test takers, and guessing when uncertain improves test performance. So it makes sense that this is built right into the system, Jeff. And as we've covered in the past, these aren't necessarily mistakes that humans would make, like when the study asked different AIs how many D's there are in the word deep seek, and they returned answers that range from one, which of course is the correct answer, all the way up to seven, which would have every letter in the word deep seek being D except for one.
Yeah, that is pretty crazy. Despite these obvious shortcomings, AI is definitely making its way into more and more places, with the European country of Albania recently breaking totally new ground by appointing an AI chatbot as an official member of the government's cabinet to deal with public tenders. And the Albanian prime minister said that the bot would make sure that, quote, public tenders will be 100% free of corruption.
Yes, perhaps not intentional corruption, but as we just spoke about, it'll definitely have some hallucinations that normal people wouldn't typically be subject to. We're going to keep our eye on that story, which I saw, and it just is so bizarre. But speaking of AI in professional situations, it looks like LinkedIn is going to be training its AI on our profile information and posts. I just got a notification about this in my account.
Yeah, so did I, and it's worth clicking on. So this had already started in the United States, but it's just now expanded to Canada, the UK, parts of the European Union, and Hong Kong. So you might want to head over to your LinkedIn data privacy settings, go to the Data for Generative AI Improvement section, and turn off the Use My Data for Training Content Creation AI models, because I I just don't really see what value we're getting out of that from a user perspective, and we just don't need to be sharing everything with everyone who asks all the time.
I never understand why these companies don't turn these things off by default, right? And then if you want to share, then you could turn them on. But it's up to the user always to go in and actually take that extra step. At least it's relatively easy to do in this sense. I mean, they've made it pretty transparent. That is not always the case in terms of how some of these tech companies operate. If you've spent thousands of dollars for one of Samsung's Family Hub smart fridges, which will soon display ads on your display when it's not in use, Samsung says this, and I'm quoting here, enhancing everyday value for our home appliance customers.
Yeah, that's it's bad enough when they try to force this garbage on us, but like that's just directly lying to us when they say that this is enhancing everyday value for us, because it's doing no such thing. Nobody wants to walk into their kitchen and see ads running on their fridge, and nobody who bought that fridge bought it so that they could have that horrible, annoying experience. So, I mean, just come on, guys. So it's another case of when big companies change the rules of the game after you've already paid your ticket to start playing. And in fact, it was only in, I think it was April 2025, like 5 months ago, when Samsung's head of R&D for digital appliances said that the company had no plans to put ads in its smart home displays.
It's unbelievable. And I think if you do have these advertisements, you should get something in return, right? Maybe there's an exchange that takes place, but this seems like this is just going to be a worse experience for their customers.
Yeah, and those
Now,
cost like I think $1,800 to $3,500, like US dollars. It's a lot of money. You shouldn't be purchase it. It's like if Tesla played ads on your, God, I shouldn't give them any ideas, but it's like if Tesla played ads on your control panel as you were driving. It's just, that's not what we signed up for. Nobody wants that, and we already paid to get in, so it's really, really annoying.
and I think that's especially true when you're paying a premium. I mean, in some cases, when
Mhm.
technology is free, I get it. There has to be some type of business model to make money. But when you're paying a premium, I think, of course, you should not have ads by default. Now, speaking of Tesla, the U.S. National Highway Safety or Traffic Safety Administration has launched yet another investigation into Tesla, this time forcing Tesla to redesign its interior door handles after people, including children, were stuck in their cars with seemingly no way to get out. And Jeff, I just have to say something because I have ordered Ubers before and they are Teslas, and I am challenged sometimes to get in and out.
Yeah, and it's this was a known problem before. So they didn't have to wait till somebody put a gun to their head to force them to do this, which seems to be just the way it happens lately. But obviously that's just not the kind of company that Tesla is. So you had to force them. And to be clear, there is a manual latch that would allow you to get out of the car. But if you haven't specifically read that part of what I imagine is a very, very long owner's manual, then good luck trying to figure out where it is or how it works, especially since this situation can come about because you get locked in with an electronic failure that happens as a result of a car crash. So it's not something you're going to be able to easily figure out. It should be intuitive. It's literally the exit door. They put red signs in theaters above them and leave the light on because you have to be able to get out. So, God, you think your car would be the same thing.
It's very frustrating that, like you said, these companies are not planning to do any better until they're absolutely forced to do so. We see this in the social media space and in the Gen AI space. And speaking of kids, we covered 16-year-old Adam Rain's ChatGPT related suicide previously on the show, a devastating story. And last week, the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee on Crime and Counterterrorism had three parents testify who feel that generative AI is responsible for their children's suicides or near suicides.
Yeah, and so the near suicide is in one case there was a teenage son who purposely cut himself in front of his mother before attacking her and biting her, kind of going crazy. The other two were suicides, including a 13-year-old Juliana Peralta, as well as the one we covered, Adam Rain. And Adam Rain's father said in his statement that, quote, what began as a homework helper gradually turned itself into a confidant and then a suicide coach. So that's just got to send chills up your spine as a parent to see that progression. It's just, again, it's not what we were promised.
Yeah, it is really, really devastating to read some of those transcripts of that conversation that Adam did have with ChatGPT. So I've read most of them as you have as well. Speaking of ChatGPT, OpenAI actually published a couple of blog posts before the testimony about teen safety, with one written by the company's CEO, Sam Altman, saying, the model by default should not provide instructions on how to commit suicide, but if an adult user is asking for help writing a fictional story that depicts a suicide, oh my God, sorry, I'm going to keep quoting here, the model should help with that request. That is just so unbelievably tone deaf, trying to really make excuses for why the chatbot does this, especially since they've shown that they can't reliably implement any type of age verification.
Yeah, and I covered that in the other Max segment, how age verification can work and why there are the good and bad parts about it. But the reality is that they haven't implemented in any way. I think the way they were talking about implementing it is having AI estimate your age somehow, and it's not reliable. So to say, oh, we care so much about our products leading to the deaths of little children that we're going to, maybe see if we could get them to admit they're little children before that. If not, it's fine. So it also, strangely enough, it ignores the fact that you don't want to have that conversation about suicide with adults any more than with kids, right? You don't stop having these issues just because you turned 18 years old. Kids today more than ever, I think, are in a different place. So you say that you're protecting people under 18 when you're not, and then you're leaving people 18 out of the loop completely. So it's just like so many things not good enough. So hopefully this Senate inquiry forces them to be a lot less cavalier in their attitude towards the safety of kids. But, look back at the conversations over the years about social media when it started to have obvious harms on kids, and think about how long it has taken them to even begin to start addressing things like that. So I expect we're going to have more innocent kids die before then, Amber.